Sitdown. This week we watched Nimona, an animated film that came out in the summer of 2023 on Netflix, and we'll get into it more after this. Welcome back. So, like I said, this week we watched Nimona. I didn't introduce us. My name is Icarus. I use they, them pronouns.
I'm Leilani, she, her.
I'm Sam, I use they, them pronouns.
Isaiah, they, them.
And I'm Nolan, I use he, him pronouns.
Now that we know who we're looking at, let's get into the movie. So, just as some fun facts, this is the first animated movie we've ever watched on Cinema Sitdown.
Really?
I believe so, yeah, as far as I'm aware.
I think so.
And then it is also probably the newest movie that we've ever watched, isn't it? It came out in this year. So it was originally a graphic novel written by Indy Stevenson. They are a trans-mass / bigender / non-binary. It's kind of varies between what article you look at. Yeah, and then it became an animated film. It was originally supposed to be produced by Disney, and then it got shut down during COVID, which is probably a good thing because, you know, Disney probably would have censored it quite a bit. And so then it was picked up by Netflix within the past couple years, and it came out this year. So just what were your kind of initial thoughts in watching it? Because this was everyone here's first time seeing it, yes?
Yeah.
No, you've seen it before. Okay, but everyone else, this was the first time you've seen it. So yeah. Just initial thoughts.
I've been told to watch this movie more times than I can count by you and many other people. And I was kind of wondering how it was going to be because I knew that it had a lot of like LGBT like commentary and like all of that in it, but I did not expect it to be that like obvious because it never is. Usually it's like, oh, this background character is a lesbian couple, and that's about all you get. But this was like our main guy and our main person. Our main characters were
two
like,
main characters were LGBTQ, with Balister being queer, and then Nimona being like gender fluid, non-binary, gender non-conforming in general. So yeah,
I thought
it's
that was
definitely
so cool.
nice
It
to
made me
see
really
that.
happy.
Yeah. Leilani, any thoughts?
Yes. So this is my second time seeing it. But I really, really enjoy this movie because kind of the same thing, like just the fact that they even have like queer representation in this movie with like an animated film as well. Because I feel like a lot of these, like they're based towards children and like most of them you don't see that. But like, it just makes me so happy to see this. Yeah.
Definitely, like it's nice because it is an animated film, so it's like kind of expected to be geared towards children, and then it deals with these like heavy themes of being trans in a world where being trans is not okay, kind of similarly to the world that we live in a little bit right now. So definitely, I agree with that. Did you guys have any initial thoughts kind of on watching it for the first time?
I mean, going into it, I was just like, this is going to be funny.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like, I mean, it's obviously taking itself seriously at some points, but I was also just, you get the kind of tone where it's both serious and a comedy from the very beginning, I think. So I was pretty excited for that. And then obviously you have all the LGBTQ stuff that is just kind of upfront and not hiding it, which is becoming more common, but it's still a lot of shows just kind of like we mentioned, kind of push it behind, kind of obscure it a little bit. In this, it's pretty open, and I think they portray very well.
Yeah, definitely.
I like how just in your face it is. I mean, with most allegorical pieces, there's some times where it gets kind of lost in what it's trying to be. Like, oh, this is an entertaining movie with metaphors, but this movie was, I mean, it was just all in all the time, and I really loved how impossible to miss the message was, and it was just, it wasn't lighthearted either, which I liked because, I mean, like you guys were saying, I liked how it was something that kids would be able to grasp in both looks and overall tone and everything. I mean, it was PG, right? Or PG-13, something like that. And I just really loved it. I mean, it was a really beautiful movie, both in meaning and metaphor, and also just in the way it looked. I mean, everything about this movie was just really stellar, and I had a really fun time watching it.
Absolutely. I completely agree. It has become one of my favorite, if not my favorite movie since I watched it this summer. And a lot of it does have to do with that really strong message of transness and being trans and what that is like for people. And a lot of that is tied into the kind of theme or like general idea that they talk about a lot, which is that of monsters and what are monsters. To the city, you know, where they've lived, this wall that they've put around themselves to protect themselves from monsters, which is just things that were different, things that weren't doing any harm. It was Nimona playing as a bear with another girl, and that she was different, so she was seen as scary, and that kind of put that monster label onto her. But then Nimona kind of brings up this other idea. It's like, I'm not like hurting anybody. I tried to save this person. You know, there's that scene where she blocks the truck from slamming into a little girl, and they're like, I'm seen as the monster, but I tried to save someone, and yet the people who point swords at me, you know, the people who want to stab a sword through my heart, which is such a heartbreaking line
Oh my God,
that she delivers, they're seen as, you know, heroes, warriors. They're put on the pedestal. So it's interesting because it mirrors real life in a little bit, in the way that, you know, trans people, LGBTQ people in general, are seen as villains or hateful things. You know, there's the idea that like trans people are pedophiles because they want to use bathrooms that are more closely assigned to the gender that they are expressing. But then the people who are trying to block them from access to things like healthcare, bathrooms, are seen as, oh yeah, you're protecting the children. So I find that quite interesting, that it mirrors that quite a lot.
Something that I noticed when we were watching what like Nimona's backstory with what's the girl's
Glorith.
name? It's Glorith.
Yeah.
Is that Glorith didn't see her as a monster or scary until her parents forced her to see that.
Yeah.
It's kind of perpetuates the idea of that like hate isn't born, it's taught.
It's taught, yeah.
And that kind of I don't know, it really like resonated with me a little
Definitely,
bit,
yeah.
because I don't know, that whole scene just like was so sad to watch, because she's just this kid that just wants a friend, and it throughout the whole montage of Nimona trying to like fit in with like fish, deer, like anything that will take them in, and she finally finds this girl that will play with her and be her friend, and as soon as that scene is bad, her friend doesn't even blink twice before pointing a sword at her and telling her to leave.
Because obviously, like, you're gonna believe your parents
And
before.
yeah, that's
and
what it
that
is.
is what it is in real life.
Yeah.
People are taught these hateful behaviors by their parents, because why wouldn't you trust your parents?
Right, your parents are supposed to be the ones that
the
like
ones looking at
take care of you, tell you what's right and wrong, and so I don't know. That whole scene was really sad, and it kind of shows that what Nimona was telling oh my God, I'm so bad with names. The main guy,
Balister.
Balister,
Yeah.
like in the subway, wasn't entirely wrong.
No.
They were just kind of like joking, but they were telling the whole truth.
Yeah.
Up until like the well.
Until the well, yeah. Then they were
So-
like, you know, their thing of asking small-minded questions.
Right.
Although Balister, I just lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was gonna say.
Balister was.
He had good intentions for a lot of it, but you
Yeah.
can even see in him how easily he is swayed by the people he's been around. Like when Ambrosius is like, no, you don't understand. Nimona is the one that we're up against, even though they had already found out that it was the director at that point.
Right.
Just because, like, even Balister had a hard time breaking from his roots, where he'd grown up, you know, been taught that Nimona's a monster, so Nimona's bad.
Right.
I think that's why the movie is stylized in the way it is, just with the mix of like phones and subways and this advanced technology, but they're still knights and castles, because socially they're still in the dark ages. I mean, they can't accept anything that is different or changes. Even though, you know, we see Nimona's backstory, and that's 1,000 years before the main story takes place, and nothing changes except for a little bit of technology. The social hierarchy is the same. The overall setup of like the institute and the kingdom, it's all the same because these people don't socially progress in any way. Which, whenever I first started the movie, I was like, oh, this is really cool. Just like a mix of knights and phones. Like it's cool. But the metaphor behind that is so heartbreaking, just because it is so real, and it just the overall design of the societies and everything that within this movie is so amazing because the kingdom, their main thing is they use a diamond, which is a rigid shape that fits into more diamonds, and nothing else can really blend into a diamond, just itself. And it's on all of their armor, it's on all their swords, it's on their architecture, flags, everything. So if you were to try to put a shape anywhere else in the kingdom, it wouldn't fit in. And then Nimona is, of course, a shapeshifter and is constantly changing. And in the scene with their true form, which that's a whole nother tangent for later, but their eyes change change shapes over and over. This is getting me, man. And it's just really, really sad because I didn't go into this expecting something emotional or deep. I just was like, oh, cool nights. But it's man, it's really, really heavy.
It hits so hard because it's unfortunately real. Like, this is unfortunately really close to reality. For people who are trans or gender nonconforming, like 3 of our cast members here today. Cast members? Hosts. We're not cast. We're not fake people. I
actually, with the eye thing, there's actually a lot of importance throughout the whole movie. With the eyes,
I'm wondering if you're going to talk about something that I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was just like, there's a part where there's like a red flashing and it's going only into her eyes. And there's another scene where there's like flames and you only see it in Nimona's eyes. And then obviously with the form at the very end, a lot of the focus is on the eyes. I mean, that's the only thing. So I'm not entirely sure what to make of it, but it just kind of puts that importance, I guess, on the perspective, I guess, how people kind of see each other. And obviously, Nimona is just the main person that is kind of challenging these perspectives. So that's kind of what I took out of it, but it's still kind of like something I noticed.
Yeah,
but
definitely. Like,
I can't
Nimona literally sees more. They are more aware of the social like stigmas and how the like city could be. There's another small thing about the eyes that I noticed the first couple times I watched it is that every character has a different shape catchlight. So like, you know, the little shine in their eyes is different, and Balister's changes in different scenes. There's the scene with him and Ambrosius on the balcony together right at the start of the film, and they both have the same catchlight. Later in the film, they have different catchlights. And then I think it may switch. I know Glorith and Nimona have the same colored or same shaped catchlight. And I've been trying to figure it out every time I watch it. I'm like, what's the pattern here? It could just be random and I might be thinking too much about it, but that is something I noticed. And there's a lot going on with the eyes, so I feel like it has to be intentional.
There's no way it's random.
In animated films, it's like, that has to be intentional. You don't just animate things to do it. Like, so anyways, yes. You sounded like you were going to say something.
I was just going to say that I noticed that too. I didn't even notice that Balister's changed though.
Yeah, it's like it's a different shape when he's sitting on the balcony with him. It might not be his that changes. Ambrosius definitely changes because it's kind of like a teardrop shape in that first scene, and then it's a triangle for most of the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a fun little thing I noticed. I'm sure there's something there. I haven't quite cracked it yet, but there's something there. So, do we have any other thoughts we want to share before we get into like favorite scenes, final ratings?
With like Balister in particular, I thought it was very interesting how they kind of made this kind of very complex character because he is trying to get to know Nimona and all of that, but at the same time he's just so held back because I mean he was picked out. He's all special. You know, he had this great opportunity
Got a lot of
and
pressure.
life provided to, and
Yeah.
I just think that kind of reflects like real life as well, where it's like you have these family members who have treated you very well. They've provided a life for you, and you can get kind of sucked up in that. Then when something challenges you, you're like, oh, you know, that's kind of
Yeah,
difficult. Or being the person that is the challenge, you know, you kind of have to deal with them where it's like this
Yeah.
love-hate relation, because, you know, I don't think Balister's a bad dude, but he does make very just inhumane comments.
Yeah.
Like just straight up
Right.
saying like, you're a monster, what are you?
Yeah.
All
Like-
that kind of stuff that kind of plays out in Nimona's head later on when they're at their lowest point, you know, and it just shows that
Right.
these comments are really powerful, especially coming from, you know, these kind of loved one father figure
Yeah.
kind of thing. So it just goes into that idea of family hurting you, but, you know, at the same time, it's like, I want to
Yeah.
still try and,
Right,
you know,
and-
work it out. And luckily in the movie, it works out and has a nice message
Yeah,
where,
real life doesn't always happen like that.
yeah, but
Yeah.
obviously in real life, that's not
Yeah.
always the occasion.
I kind of was thinking that I think a lot of us, especially us two, or like us three, have had that type of conversation with any family members or like older people that we meet that are trying to know like, well, how does your gender work? Like, why did you do that? Like,
Yeah.
and
Why
Nimona's
can't
like,
you just
why can't you just
be-
be like a girl? Like,
Yeah.
what's your deal? And I'm like, because I'm just me. Like
I'm
Nimona's whole
not,
thing, like
yeah.
I'm Nimona. The
Yeah.
whole time I was like, I felt that so hard.
Right? Like that is so mean.
And
Yeah.
and I think I don't know, he really tried to he tried, but he said things out of like poor taste. But and that's what's always so hard about these types of conversations is that you have people that you know mean well, but it still hurts because they're saying things that aren't correct, that are mean unintentionally, all types of things. So I think you wanted to say something.
Oh yeah, everything I was gonna say was kind of along the lines of Balister's character because throughout it you can see like the progress and development that he has. Because in the first, like obviously he was like, "You're a monster." He says all these things, and he's like, "So what are you?" But by the end of it, because he starts talking about the other people of the kingdom, and how like you can't change the way that they see, and then Mona's like, "But you changed how you see me,"
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of thing. And I thought that part right there was gonna like make me break because I was like,
Yeah.
just seeing that, like, yes, there's a lot of times where a lot of people won't change their perspectives, but just the fact that he was able to change that was
Yeah.
something that was just really great in the
Yeah.
story.
And of course, the heartbreaking scene, which is my favorite scene in the movie, where the one featured on this monitor back here, where he goes up onto the statue, touches, you know, Nimona's heart, and is like, "I see you, Nimona, and you're not alone."
Oh my
like,
God.
favorite scene in the whole movie. So heartbreaking, but also so like, it shows his growth. Like, it's possible for people to change and to see people differently.
And I liked how he used his metal arm to touch.
Definitely.
Instead of like his actual
Yeah.
human hand, because it shows to show like the differences that they both have that
Yeah.
they're accepting like together at like
Yeah.
I really like how he is sort of the one that can break from the line of tradition in the like the knights have to kill monsters, but he's not a knight by birth. I mean,
Yeah.
he was a commoner who took up the sword and chose
Right.
to be different because he felt like he had a calling to it. So he was the one that was able to break the line of nobility and the tradition of taking up a sword, which I really liked. I mean, he was just such a cool character. I mean, his armor was different, his sword was different. Everything about him just made so much sense. But the other thing that I was going to say is, and I started to talk about this earlier, the one thing I think I would change about this movie, even though it made for an amazing scene, was the fact that Nimona had like a true form, like with the big darkness shadow. What I was gathering was that everything that they transformed into was their true form. And so then to have a deeper, darker, truest form with this big hulking creature, I feel like kind of took away from the metaphor just a little bit.
Yeah.
And of course that's still them.
Yeah.
But I just wanted it to be like a more happy thing, but of course it's not always a happy thing.
I would
So
And I
argue
also- I almost disagree. I feel like we're probably about to say the same. I know we're going over time a
And it
little
is
bit.
so
but,
not my place to say that either.
No, you're
But
good.
I was just
You're
like,
good.
I kind of would argue that like you said, like it still is their truest form, but that's a part of them that they are like hiding inside of themselves because they know that that is what the monster that everyone else sees or something like that. And their whole like spiel about, I don't know, like how they feel like there's an itch under their skin when they're not who they are, when they transform, it goes away. I was like, oh my.
See, I didn't even catch that. When was that?
It was during the scene when they were interrogating the guy before he comes out of the trunk. I think you were in the bathroom.
I had to
actually.
pee. Yeah, that's what that was.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I have more thoughts on this, but we can
need to
talk
wrap
some
it
more
up.
after. Just quick final rating out of 10.
11.
Yeah, I was gonna say good 10 or 11 out of 10.
Yeah,
Loved
a
it.
million out of 10.
I'd probably give it like a strong 8.5.
I was gonna say 9.
All right, solid.
Wow.
All right, well that is all that we have time for. How do you end Cinema Sitdown?
Let us know
Bye.
your thoughts.
Yeah, let us know what you think about Nimona
Watch it.
in the comments.
Like
Watch
and
it.
subscribe.
Like
you
and
know.
subscribe.
Or 5 times.
Thanks,
Or 5
guys.
times.
All right.
Anyways.
We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.